Good morning and welcome to Monday. I'm Joe Jaquin, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, and our toll-free number 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. Again, the number 800-951-0592. The physical delivery of gold and silver. It's what we do. We've been doing it for 2.5 decades, and we'll be doing it for another 2.5 decades. Interesting morning. I know you come back from the weekend, and everybody's still kind of, in vacation mode, and everybody's a little unsure of what's going to happen as are the face masks coming back? Are the lockdowns coming back? And vaccines and inflation, housing, right? Automobile prices, shortages. I mean, you name it. There's a litany of things. And then you wake up and the Dow's down 850 points. And you're like, what? Yeah. The NASDAQ's down 175. The S&P's down 75. The bond market, and this has been the big dilemma ever since this whole inflation thing started. Remember when COVID first came out? So go back to, March of 2020. And really, I guess technically it kind of came out in January. But really didn't quite get here until March. The bond yields, they got down to, they were below 0.5%. Heck, I think they got into the 0.3% range. And then it rallied, got all the way to 1.7, which, and of course, historic terms, absolute joke. And we're talking about the 10-year note, by the way. But then people started talking about inflation. And the bond yields have been falling. And today, they really fell. The bond market was, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, between, let's just say between 1.3 and 1.5 for the last 30 days or so. Bond market, the 10-year note yields 1.18. That is a massive move in a single day to the downside. And this is what's confusing, because in an inflationary world, bond yields rise. Right? Think about, the 70s is an easy one, but that's been the economic formula. Now, whether that formula is true or not, because let's face it, they just made it up. But that's how it worked. High inflation or higher inflation meant higher bond yields. And that actually made sense. Because otherwise, why would you keep your money in the bank? It makes no sense. Bank accounts, right? You're not supposed to lose purchasing power by having your money in the bank, right? The bank's supposed to be the safe place. Right? And people, they always argue for decades, gold doesn't pay interest. Well, neither does your money anymore. And the bond yields fall when slowdowns happen. Right? So you look over the last, let's just take the last 12, 13 years. It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? That bond yields are so low, because nothing's been great. Right? Before Trump, right? We couldn't even get GDP of 2%. Remember? And then Trump spent a bunch of money. We got, I think we got 0.25% of 3% GDP growth, but it was nothing huge. But is the bond market telling us something that we don't know? And this has been my fear because it doesn't make sense. Yields should be right. We should be talking about a 10-year note of at least 2%. I mean, if you go back, throw out the last 15 years. Okay, throw out the last 15 years. If we had an inflation reading like we've been having, and it hasn't been just 1 month. You know, we had a 1-month inflation reading in 2008, but I'm talking about, listen, it has been very, very clear that inflation has been rising in the United States and all over the world for quite some time. 15 years ago, the Fed would have been raising rates. We'd probably have a Fed's funds rate, I don't even know, north of 5. 10-year note yielding 7, maybe even 8%. But we don't. And I'm just saying, man, we should have it at least approaching 2%. Even in these weird times. But now we're talking about it may break 1% again. One of the banks put out a thing today saying, are we back to where we were 18 months ago? After all the lockdowns, after all the vaccines. Boy, I hope that's not true. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour, here on this Monday. Just an interesting day. Listen, when you have bubbles, this is what happens. And I don't want to make too much of it. It could be better tomorrow. It might be better by the end of the day. But right now, the Dow's down 845 points. The 10-year note has collapsed. Well, it's at 1.2 right now. It's actually been to 1.18, which means money, and you know, we've created so much of it, is running to what they call safety. And this is the debt market's version of safety, right? Which is, hey, I'm getting out of my stocks, or I'm getting out of this, or getting out of that, and I'm just going to buy treasuries because I don't like what's coming. And then the volume, the yields start falling. They're not supposed to fall like this. And again, it started, speculation that despite the mask mandates, the lockdowns, the vaccines, are we right back to where we were 18 months ago? Now, I don't know if that's what the market is trying to warn us today. But one of the banks put out a bulletin, hey, look at the numbers here. Right? We had COVID cases. I think they were down to around 10,000 a day in the country, to 20,000, now 30,000, right? They're rising back again. I don't know. I've said from the beginning, I believe that they're going to force all of us to be vaccinated, whether we like it or not. And just a very, very interesting move happening in the stock market today, and mostly in the bond market. Gives me a bad feeling. That's all. I don't. And again, by the time we figure out what it is, it'll have already happened. Is my worry. But how about this? If you thought we were having problems with stuff now, as far as shortages go, it's getting worse. By the way, apparently the new big shortage, luggage. Yep, can't get any luggage out there. So if you're looking for luggage, I'd buy some now because it's probably going to get a lot more expensive. But Union Pacific. Okay, so for those of you that don't know that name, one of the major railroad companies in the world, and especially here in the U.S. When you see a train and it's got seemingly like a mile of storage containers on it, a lot of times that's Union Pacific. They are temporarily suspending all eastbound service from the West Coast port terminals. And I'm like, what? Think about, okay, comes in from China, goes to Oakland or L.A. or Long Beach, and Union Pacific is saying, hey, listen, we're not taking it east. They said that they have such huge congestion in their Midwest terminals, mainly in Chicago, that they have to suspend any more freight from coming. Because they said, listen, my guess is what happened is they're out of room. In other words, well, all of our yards are filled up with all these rail cars, but we don't have the capacity to actually send them where they need to go. I've never, ever heard of such a thing. The hopes this suspension, which started yesterday, now maybe this has to do with the stock market today. Again, I don't understand it. They say that they're going to start with a 1-week suspension. So for 1 week, no goods. Now, what do you think is going to happen to all the ships out at the ports in the West Coast? They're trying to relieve port backlogs for Chicago-bound container traffic, but I don't know how this is going to relieve anything, really. I mean, I guess they're going to move it. Hey, we're going to move it to the west. They're saying that the suspension serve ports of Los Angeles, Long Beach, Oakland, and Tacoma, Washington, which, as far as I know, that's all the major ports on the west. Freightwaves have been told that the suspensions reportedly email customers shipping 20 and 40-foot equipment that their freight is going to be suspended. We reached out to ocean carriers to make more positive steps, blah, blah, blah. Again, wow.
And Joe, let me jump in a second. Let me.
Yeah, Jason.
Let me say this: all that free money, and it's interesting, kind of like the 2008 debacle, the housing crunch. You had Bush had his little free money he gave out, his quantitative easing, and then it went into Obama. Same thing that happened here. You had Trump giving out some free money before he left office, and then Biden's doing the same thing. So he could point the finger at everybody. And I had to buy a car. I had an old Toyota Corolla. It had 230,000 miles. I thought I better grab a car now. Maybe I shouldn't wait too long. So I went out a couple weeks ago and got a car. And I started talking to the guy about the chip shortages. And this guy said, there ain't no chip shortages. That's bogus. We got plenty of cars. Plenty of cars. And he said this. He said, look, everything that's coming to the lot is just sold before it even touched the lot. Because all this free money is getting people to buy tons of stuff. I mean, the reason there's shortages has nothing to do with supply lines. It has to do with this free money that's out there. Everyone's just buying. There's not enough goods for the printing that they're doing. But now what's going to happen, Joe? And we have this government shutdown that's looming, and we have Trump when he had his money that he gave out. He had about $600 billion, kind of a cushion for this shutdown that's coming in July at the end of this month. And that gives us about $50 billion a week for the government to run when they're on holiday, because at the end of July, there's not going to be the Congress isn't going to be in session until September 20th or something like that. So I think what we're going to see, Joe, is stuff's getting too expensive. Ships are going to stop coming here because there's too expensive to buy stuff. So we had shortages of cars because they were being bought up. Then there's going to be shortages of cars because nobody's going to be able to buy them, Joe. And I think this is going to be happening in September sometime. We may see some really massive economic stress just in time for the flu season to come in and point the finger at something besides economics, Joe.
You could be right. I mean, when you think about, and it's very interesting you brought that up, the amount of loans by banks. You would think with this, the economy's roaring. Loan volumes aren't up at all.
No.
Not at all. I mean, and again, today I would imagine, maybe some people will try to refi a home if they haven't already done it. But there is no loan demand to go along with this so-called huge economic growth. And you bring up a good point. It's just very interesting how the bond markets have been acting pretty much most of this year. Right? We've been, the bond market kind of peaked towards the end of 2020, and now all of 2021 really continuing to fall month after month after month. And I wonder, like you said, Jason, is there an event coming and we just haven't been able to put the pieces together yet?
Absolutely. It's coming. And if it doesn't happen in the next couple of months, let's just say they figure out how to go ahead and another rescue plan by Biden push us into early next year. But it's going to happen, whether it be this fall or it's going to be, let's just say February of next year when we bail the government out, for the debt ceiling for a few more months or a year or whatever. But it's going to happen.
On Friday, we were talking about Jeffrey Gundlach. Okay, right now, remember, he manages the largest bond fund in the world. And he has been very, very consistent. He actually, what's so funny is he called for the dollar to rally this year, albeit, and let me caveat this briefly, but he was being interviewed on CNBC, and he told everybody that was listening, and he used these words, "I don't want to be over dramatic, but the dollar is doomed."
It sounds dramatic. It sounds really dramatic.
Well, but he didn't want to be over dramatic, and he clarified.
It seems like the word doomed.
Said, listen,
Joe, the word doomed is dramatic all by itself.
Right. He wanted to be dramatic, just not overly dramatic, right? But it's doomed. We already know this. I mean, that really isn't earth-shaking. I've been telling you for a while. Listen, the digital currency is coming. But what he was telling all of us is there is a major correction coming to the dollar, and he used the word intermediate term. And then he clarified, because, what is that? That could mean anything, right? Intermediate could mean a month to somebody, a year to somebody else, could be 5 years to somebody else. What type of time horizon are we talking about? And he clarified it. And he says, I think the dollar will rally a little bit. And right now the dollar is at 92 and change. He said 94 is as high as it will go. But he says, I don't see much past the end of this year. So, at least for Jeff Gundlach, he's kind of saying, listen, 2022 is going to start what he calls this super cycle of a major crashing of the dollar, and again, because it's a bubble, right? And same thing with the bond market. He said, listen, the bond market's in a bubble. And again, we're pulling on both ends of the string, and then you wake up today on a Monday, and we just have this massive move. And it wasn't like, you normally when we have a massive move like that, there's, Bernie Madoff or Bear Stearns or, something big happened, right? I don't know, the oil refineries in Saudi Arabia got bombed or something like that. We really didn't get that, though, this time. We just kind of woke up and bam, there it is.
Was the plunge protection team involved? Did it suddenly stop at any point today?
Well, it's been down. It's down 860 right now.
Because I always wondered, they have the little computers that just stop it from going all the way. Maybe this is out of there. Because I think it's all controlled, Joe. So sometimes we have these big market downward turns like this. Sometimes it just sort of stops magically so they can inject whatever they need to inject to fix it.
I don't know. And you're right. We don't know. We'll watch it play out. It's just when you see moves like this, it starts to question. And again, I'm not so worried about the Dow. Big deal, 860 points really isn't that much on 35,000. It was the bond market move that scared the crap out of me today. Patriot Radio News Hour. We're at halftime. We'll be right back. 800-951-0592. Dow's down 880 right now. Everything's getting crushed with the exception of gold. Gold's down 6. It's been pretty flat all day. There was a brief moment gold was down 15 and then right back up, but it's down 6. 1810. Silver, I defying all logic. Silver's down 70 cents at 25 dollars this morning, and again on a paper market, physical market, it's not down at all whatsoever. 800-951-0592. I've got something interesting, Jason. What if they're using the this Delta variant, these variants, this COVID stuff, and threatening lockdowns again and mask mandates and all of that stuff. What happened last week? The Biden administration and Bernie Sanders, because let's face it, we know Joe Biden's not running the country right now. If I had to guess, if I was guessing who's running it, I'd probably guess Nancy Pelosi. That'd probably be my guess.
I don't think any of them are running, Joe.
Yeah, well, and again, could be.
They all have their marching orders.
But, well, I agreed by that, right? Yeah, but I agree with that as well. But I think Nancy Pelosi is the one driving whatever the marching orders they're given. She's the force behind it. That's just my opinion. But remember, they proposed this new human infrastructure bill. Remember, $3.5 trillion.
Yep.
Let me give you some tidbits in there. Clean energy.
Oh, yeah.
Energy tariffs on carbon, imports. Right? So, wait. What do you bring? Oh, wait, that was bad. Let's tax it. Right? Make it more expensive. Corporate tax hikes, which we know that's a pretty hollow one. Capital gains tax hikes.
Yeah, here it comes.
Right? That's for the people, right? The rich people. Medicare expansion. Remember, I already told you, Medicare and Medicaid run out first.
Theft. All I hear is theft, Joe, because that's all it's going to be is theft from the middle class and paying for this new thing they're rolling, this new society they're rolling in, Joe.
Subsidized child care.
Yeah,
we can't even take care of our own kids now, right? The government's got to help you take care of them. Universal pre-kindergarten. You know what's so funny? Nobody really wants to do any research at all. There's no such thing as pre-K when I grew up. Because let's define what pre-K is. Oh, we need babysitters.
Joe Biden said it in his
That's what
speech, Joe, earlier this year. He said that we want to have kids in school for 2 years earlier and 2 years later, you know.
Yeah. Well, of course, that's where most of the brainwash happens. But again, does it help? Look at test scores. Look at all this money we've thrown at it. Test scores aren't any better. Matter of fact, I mean, you can argue they're actually getting worse again. But now, universal pre-kindergarten, which makes sense. We got to subsidize child care, so let's just put them in school earlier, and that way we'll just subsidize it differently, right? That makes sense. 2 years of free community college. And then, of course, my favorite, the civilian climate cops. Let's not forget about those people. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yes. You've got a gas lawnmower or a gas weed eater. We're going to turn you in, right? You know, same thing. The civilian climate cops. If this economy starts to falter, if it does, this is what we're going to get. This is the next, quote unquote, stimulus.
It's like America's turning into a big HOA. It's like a big HOA, Joe, of controlling what you do. The taxes, all the taxes you mentioned. And I think they're watching. When the dot-com bubble burst, they conveniently had 9/11 just happened, and they had a lot of money to fund a war. But then in the 2008 housing crash, they didn't really have a big emergency. It's almost like beta testing just to see, hey, let's not have an emergency. Let's see how smart they get. And I think some people started figuring it out, 2008, 9, and 10. Joe, I think people were starting to figure it out. So when COVID came through in 2020, and we had that flash crash, March and April, then it just magically everything just came back after that. But it's interesting that there always has to be something else to point the finger at. And yeah, something's coming big, Joe. We're going to watch the financial part. And taxes is theft. They're here to take it. The middle class is getting smashed.
Taxes is theft. Inflation is theft. They just don't call it tax. Inflation's a tax.
Inflation's a tax.
Why do things cost more? Well, they gave away all this free money, like to Jason's point. How come there's shortages and all this stuff? And the real answer is because the government gave everyone boatloads of money. And so people that weren't going to buy a car or weren't going to go on vacation or normally, hey, you know what, I don't buy, I clip coupons at the store and I've got to watch how much I spend. Are now going in there and what are they doing? They're filling up the cart. And Jason's absolutely right. Every car dealer will tell you all the cars are already sold before they get here.
Yep.
But the only models out on the lot are the ones nobody wants, right?
Or they're spoken for, they just haven't been picked up yet.
Right. So, and all of this is stopping. And I think this may be the bond market saying, hey, wait a minute. Where's the other spending? And to Jason's point, Congress goes on break in about, 2 weeks? So they take August through, and they don't come back until, what is it? What's in
September?
Is it Labor Day or Memorial Day?
Yeah, Labor Day. Labor Day.
Labor Day. They don't come back till after Labor Day.
And let me say this, Joe, for everybody that listens, that's a little bit more of my type of thinking because Joe and I have different wavelengths on how we look at things. When Joe talks about bonds and he talks about treasuries, this is just big piles of fraudulent reserve notes, Joe. And when those markets have strains, it affects everything around us.
Pedro Radio News Hour. We'll be back right after the break. 800-951-0592, down 925 and falling. As again, let's check the bond market here. Yeah, 119. It's been as low as 118. A massive move in the bond market this morning. Bond markets, they're not supposed to move 0.1% in a day, right? They're more like 0.1% in a day. But again, more and more volatility. I think Jason's bringing up something very interesting and talking about Congress going away for their vacation, if you will. Is the debt market, and that's what Wall Street is a debt market. Are they saying, hey, wait a minute, that means no money in July, no
That's
money
right.
in August,
No loans,
no money in September, right? Because they don't get back till September. And remember, they didn't get the $1 trillion infrastructure bill. That's not done. As far as I know, it's not even getting voted on. Then the human infrastructure one, is this what they're saying? Hey, wait a minute. Hey, if you guys are going to stop handing out all this money, we're going to have a problem. Right? The economy is going to have a massive problem. I don't know. Makes sense because that's usually the pattern, isn't it, Jason?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it's a big Ponzi scheme. I say it so many times on my show, Joe, that when you started talking seriously in 2019 about the repo market, and one of these banks or a couple of these banks were having massive trouble, and the Fed was just fixing it, putting a Band-Aid over it. By the time they started talking about coronavirus in China in December, China had sold more treasuries than in any other month before, and Japan started selling treasuries. I knew something bad was getting ready to happen, Joe. And look at all of the bailouts and all the money. You talk about all these multiple plans that are getting ready to happen. What about all the ones that already took place after foreign countries started selling treasuries? And that's just foreign countries. Who else is selling treasuries, Joe, that we don't know about? And they need to make this Ponzi scheme. They need to fill that gap. So let's just print a whole bunch of money up. You got to get as many dollars out there as you possibly can to save their system. And whenever it crashes, Joe, and I think they know exactly when they want to crash it. It seems like all these little economic factors are all coming to a head all at the same time.
Yeah, and it could be Bank of America saying, and I don't know how they get this information. They got these surveys saying that America is starting to go on a buyer's strike, that the price of everything's gotten so expensive.
That's exactly right.
That a record collapse in Americans planning to purchase a home, record collapse in Americans planning on purchasing a car. And I think this is all kind of weighing in on things where if the federal government isn't going to get all these things passed. Now, this human infrastructure bill, right, wrong, or indifferent, the Wall Street Journal is saying they only need 3 more votes. Sinema here in Arizona, John Tester from Montana, and Joe Manchin from West Virginia. Now, of course, we've heard these names before. I think the slightest scare, a Wall Street scare, an economic slowdown scare, any of those things, and I think all 3 of them jump on board, Jason. That's just my thought.
Maybe plus a few extras, maybe, huh?
Maybe.
The guys the people that pay for the campaigns of these voters in the Congress and the Senate, as soon as the money tells them this is what needs to be voted on, they just switch their votes. I'm convinced that these guys don't even have they don't even know what they're voting on or how to vote. They just have the powers that be tell them you're a yes and you're a no, and you're a yes and you're a no. And anytime you hear this word bipartisan, and anytime that something passes bipartisan, Joe, it's always a bad thing, because that means the powers that be they have to pass it. So, yeah, Joe, when we get a massive market correction or something, why do I get the feeling that we'll have this bipartisan thing that gets passed, and then a whole bunch more so-called saving money gets thrust into here, and then a whole bunch more taxes?
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the way things are going to be planned out here. I think it's clear to me. When you sit here and the moratorium that's coming up here at the end of the month on evictions. And these reports are saying, hey, listen, 25% of renters haven't paid. How's that possible?
Tens and hundreds of millions of dollars, Joe. If forbearance ends, these people have no way. Here, you know what I've been hearing a whole bunch of, Joe? Subleasing. There's a whole bunch of subleasing going on. Why do I feel like these are renters that are trying to pay back that money that they were in forbearance, and it's like, wait a minute, I still owe the money? Well, maybe I'll sublet it and go somewhere else to live with
Not only do you owe the money, you owe the late fees and all that other stuff, right?
It's all coming to a head.
That's where a lot of them are going to be in trouble, is they may be able to pay the rent now, but it's the late fees.
Yep.
Right? That's probably what's going to do them all in. It could be very interesting. I don't know. Just a massive move to the downside here this morning. All the talking heads on the TV are, 30,000 COVID cases a day. A month ago where there was 11,000, and beating that drum again. It's possible, I guess.
It feels like someone's getting ready to rip the Band-Aid off really fast, Joe.
Do you see a number? I mean, if we go back above 50,000, do you think the lockdowns are going to come back?
Yeah, there'll be some trigger, Joe. There'll be something that hits the news. There'll be an emergency press conference by the president, and then it'll all happen all at once. It'll be shocking because it'll be sudden, I think.
There you have it. Final segment coming up. Patriot Radio News Hour. Don't touch that dial. 800-951-0592, Patriot Radio News Hour. The Dow's down 900 points. The S&P down 85. The NASDAQ down 220. Gold's down 5, 18.10. Crude oil's down $5 today. There wasn't a deal between Saudi Arabia and the Arab Emirates. That deal is actually going to pave the way for much higher oil prices. So be ready for that. I know Kitco's showing gold down $4, so $4, $5, whatever you'd like to call it. Silver's down 61 cents. Got a great special today. The lower grade gold is gone. Gold bars are gone. Gold Eagles are gone. $20 Liberties and Saints in circulating condition, they're gone. I have a good amount. That's what's really I'm starting to see here as shipments from Europe are starting to finally come in of almost uncirculated $20 Liberties today at $2,125. That's $30 less than our normal circulated $20 gold pieces. We've seen it more in COVID where the AU price, a lot of times, hey, you get AU for the same price. Or maybe $10 to $30 less today. By the way, that's $130 off the actual AU price today. So right now, AU prices were about $22.55. A major shipment just came, so there's 200 AU $20 Liberties today at $2,125. Just huge savings at 800-951-0592. Keep adding to your portfolio. Either way, I think, this is just my opinion, I just can't imagine us shutting down again.
I don't know, Joe. One thing they kept saying is the new normal. They keep saying new normal. And why do I get the feeling that means every year to 2 years we're going to have some sort of flash crash in the markets, and it's just going to be like stair-stepping down. Instead of one big, huge crash, it could be, hey, brace for it. This will just be a part of, you're going to be on the roller coaster and you're going to enjoy it because it's the new normal, Joe.
Yeah, and another one, you're going to see all these businesses stop taking cash. In California, it was everywhere. We don't take cash. We don't take cash. We're going to see that. I think there's going to be threats of lockdowns. We may see certain states. But I think more than anything, Wall Street is sending Washington a message today. Where's the money?
Yep.
Where's the money? Because if we don't have more money coming into the system, this house of cards is going to blow up. And this is the problem with the debt. I've been saying it all along. It doesn't stop at 1 trillion or 2 trillion or 3 trillion or 4 trillion. In order to keep it going, right, it's got to get bigger. 800-951-0592. AU $20 liberties, almost uncirculated $20 libs. These things are just gorgeous. That's what I love about them. They're really, really sharp looking. But today it's all about price. 21 and a quarter at 800-951-0592. God bless everybody. Try to enjoy the rest of your day. Turn off the stock channel. Just turn it off and veg out. We'll pick up the pieces tomorrow. Jason, thanks for joining us. We'll be back.